Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack.
You know who I can do without? I can do without the people in the video store.
Which ones?
All of them. They never rent quality flicks. They always pick the most intellectually devoid movie on the racks.
And now, on with the show.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to Loose Cannon. I am your host, Mike the Birdman, and welcome to one of the first holiday specials of 2026. This is sort of continuing our series that we started just before Christmas for Lord of the Rings. And this will be a series that will continue throughout 2026 as we continue on through tonight's topic, which is going to be The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. We will then continue on with The Return of the King, which as of this recording is actually back in theaters. I might go see that this week. I haven't quite decided yet. But we also have to talk about the animated ones, the Ralph Bakshi ones, and the War of the Rahim, which was a Warner Brothers anime that came out about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now. And we'll do the Hobbits at some point, maybe around Christmas time next year, maybe for the summer. We don't know yet. Haven't quite decided about that, but we will figure that out. But I'm Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as I trek across Middle Earth. I'm joined by my compatriot from also the Royal City, aka the Shire.
I'm Adam A. Donaldson. I'm not sure how Shire-like Guelph is, but...
Hey, it's the Royal City. We have the Arboretum, so Treebeard could live there. We also have to welcome our fellow elves and from the realm of men. So I guess we'll go with the Garden State. So I guess you'll be the elf today.
Get from this anime.
And I guess from the Kingdom of Gondor.
You shall not pod, David Denoyer, coming to you from Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio shall answer the call, light the torches. Don't know how I feel about Ohioans coming to my assistance at Helm's Deep, but hey, it is what it is. So yes, guys, we are here to chat about Peter Jackson's groundbreaking series of movies. I was not on the first edition of this show because I can't remember if I was sick, dead, or exhausted. Probably a combination.
You were exhausted.
Probably all three of those, to be honest.
Yeah.
We had to, dear listener, we had to, if you didn't listen to the previous episode, we had to beg this man to stay off the air. And that's how much we care about him.
It was like, Mike, please go sleep for a few hours. Like, I can do it. No, you can't. Okay. It was so tired.
It's like you wanted to take the Precious, but we were like, no, you go sleep. We'll handle the Precious tonight.
So definitely thank you guys for doing that. Definitely the best Christmas gift I got was the Joy of Rest, which I guess was kind of what I did today, actually. So I started Fellowship of the Ring in preparation to join these guys, but I just tapped out. But I did watch the rest of it today, and I just wanted to share a couple of brief thoughts about that before we get into the Two Towers today, because it's kind of an interesting experience to watch two extended cuts back to back, which some people do. It's like the marathon. It's literally your march to Mount Doom.
Oh, it's a legend. It's a legendary marathon to sit and go through all three extended editions back to back to back.
I mean, I might try that during the next Twig hiatus just to see if I can do it and do what you guys do and turn the screen off and not constantly check the doom scroll that is 2026.
My roommate literally went to a party recently where they not only did all three of them extended cuts back to back to back, but they also did the meals, because apparently that's a big thing too, is now incorporating the meals into it. And he said I think he said by second breakfast, he was so full that he left before return even started.
But what about second trip to the toilet?
Oh, God.
Oh, wow, that is intense. I mean, it's weird because I hadn't seen Fellowship since I moved away from home, really, which would have been in like the early 2000s, really. And I seen all of these movies in theaters. I saw the last one, Return of the King, with a previous girl from this gorgeous 1920s theater in a small town called Trenton, which is in Ontario, near a major kind of military base. I don't know whether that theater's still there anymore, but anyway. So going back to these movies, it was a real trip back to a different point in my life. And it was like, because I had a best friend at the time who was really into the books, and I'd only ever read The Hobbit at that point. And I still have only read The Hobbit. And it's strange because I love sword and sorcery. Like, I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, and I was like, I wonder how this feels different than that. And I had some interesting thoughts. Like, Lord of the Rings feels more epic and grounded only because magic is so rare, and any magic items are treated as these artifacts, or like you can't just walk down to the magic shop and, oh, I need like a magic +1 bow or something. How all the weapons have names. Like, literally while I was watching today, I was like, why is that weapon named this? Why is that called this? Who is this person? And if it wasn't for the role-playing game put out by our friends over at Free League Publishing, I typically review The One Ring, which is the reinvention of the old RPG, and then what was Middle-earth role-playing, MERP, which became the Lord of the Rings role-playing game based upon the 5th edition. I would not have known a lot of these things and just how certain characters, they're explained in the movies, but you don't get their full backstories. Like, Gandalf is a demigod. I had no idea. And while I was listening to some of the dialogue in Two Towers, which is what we're going to get to, they mention how Aragorn is a Númenorian, or part Númenorian, who is a long-lived particular breed of man descended from those same demigods that helped create Middle-earth. And just what's the relationship of Saruman the White? What's the relationship between the Uruk-hai, the goblins, and the orcs? What's the lineage like? Again, like, I love getting into the weeds of lore. And I've got a friend of mine who is a pretty big Lord of the Rings dork, and I remember he's able to quote that "you shall not pass" speech with the whole "this is the flame of Arnor" and all that bullshit, and how that ties into like the rings of powers held by the elves and all that shit. And I was like, wow, this franchise is really fucking deep. And yeah, it's weird. Just my final thought on Fellowship. It's the one that obviously sparked the franchise, spawned tons of toys. It was like a huge thing. Hell, I remember when Burger King had the light up goblets for those. I liked it, but I didn't love it as much as I thought. And when I was watching Two Towers today, I remember not liking this one as much as I did when I was younger. But watching it today, that opinion has completely changed 180. So yeah, I guess we'll kind of go around the table and let's talk about Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. I'm going to start with Adam, mostly because he's at the top of my screen right now. When did you first see The Two Towers?
I probably saw it opening weekend in 2002. Yeah, I was hyped. I'd seen the Fellowship in the theater the year before that. This was back in a day, 20 some odd years ago, where something would be in the theater if it was really popular, it'd be in the theater for weeks or months, and it would be weeks or months. Actually, it'd be months till it came out on DVD. And the way it worked was it was released it on DVD. Like I think it was probably closer to the summer between, and then you got the extended edition in the fall, and then you got the new movie, the theater that Christmas. And so yeah, it was hyped. It was this was probably the chapter I was most nervous about because it's the middle one, and it means a lot of holding action. It means, if they got the first one right, they probably safe to assume they'd get the third one right. Those are the big action pieces, the setup and the payoff. How would they treat the middle chapter? This was the introduction, the full introduction of Gollum. How would that work? Motion capture. Maybe hard for people to believe. Motion capture was a new rarefied thing.
Well,
yeah.
The thing was, it wasn't even motion capture. It was literally circus being filmed in like this white suit, and just performing, and they would just digitally replace him and use his performance as reference.
Yeah, so it was like proto motion capture.
Yeah. It was proto motion capture. The Hobbits are when it was like full on motion capture, and all the technology was there.
Yeah, and because the idea was, I think it was going to be, Gollum was going to be a full CGI thing,
Yeah,
and
that was
Circus
always the plan.
Circus was so powerful in it that they used his performance as the model for the CG creature in it. The CG Gollum. So yeah, there was a big question like how you would pull that off, and you're introducing new characters in it. The Rohan characters, Theoden and his kingdom, and you're getting Wormtongue, you're getting Treebeard. I mean, how would you handle that? Walking trees, the walking, talking trees. It sounds so silly, but I mean, this is the Fellowship of the Ring was the test. And Two Towers.
Two Towers adds a lot more of the high fantasy elements
It does.
that you don't get as much in Fellowship.
It's true, and it was good to test how far you could follow into this world. And I think Two Towers is probably my favorite. Oddly enough, it's being the middle chapter. You don't necessarily get any setup or payoff in it, but I feel like it's I feel like it's kind of the most propulsive too. You're how do you get to the payoff? How do you bridge? It's very easy to start a journey. It's very hard to keep pace and try and get to that. Get to the last mile. It really is the middle part of the marathon. Do you have can you find your second wind? I also think that I watched reference. I rewatched the theatrical cut. I like the extended cuts. I find them interesting as just sort of film artifacts. But I mean, the last 12 minutes of the Two Towers, I think, is like some of the most solid film editing that you could see. Just the way it's wrapped up, the Samwise monologue. Seeing. Like pretty much from the point where they're in the keep and they think all hope is lost, and Theoden says like what hope is there against all this evil, and Aragorn says ride out to meet it, and that's when he realizes that it's the dawn of the fifth morning and Gandalf is coming. And then you get the riders of Rohirrim arriving, you get the Ents kicking shit around in Isengard, and you get Boromir, not Boromir, Theoden, the little brother, Boromir, thank you, making the consequential decision to let Frodo go, Frodo, Sam, and Gollum go, as opposed to taking the ring back to his we learned quite mad father. Funnily enough, I was watching Fringe on Prime, so I've been getting a lot of John Noble, and maybe I'm getting like psychologically set for Return to the King by exposing myself to some John Noble madness. But yeah, those last 12 minutes of Two Towers get me every time. It's the music, the editing, the pacing, the Samwise monologue. It's so beautiful, and it just I hate to say it, but when you watch the extended edition of 2 hours, it just drags and drags and drags. It's like the story's over, guys. Bring it in. But yeah, it's if you thought Fellowship was a fluke, really proved Peter Jackson as the man who was the right choice to tell these stories. It's as good as Fellowship was, and as lucky as we get to good as Fellowship was, Two Towers feels like just a little bit that more of a miracle. You get this really exceptional second chapter. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
I'd say for me, and then we'll go to Dave after this. So when Fellowship came out, or when Two Towers came out, Lord of the Rings in my friend group was pretty big. Like I said, I had that friend of mine who was really into the books, and I specifically asked this friend, like, don't tell me anything. I'll just go see the movies, whatever. And it feels like we're in a rather magical time for movie making. And what I mean by that is a lot of books were getting adapted. Like we had the success of the Harry Potter franchise was starting to kind of kick off around then, like get really, really, really kind of big. But something to the scale of Lord of the Rings, to my knowledge, had never really been tried outside of maybe Jurassic Park. And I was like, okay, because I never was a fantasy guy, but I always was a D&D guy. I always liked that idea, but I'd never seen anything that had captured what does fantasy look like. It wasn't Excalibur, it wasn't Legend, it wasn't even Conan to me. Nothing had captured D&D. Even the D&D movie, no. As much as Marlon Wayne's as Snails is amusing and Jeremy Irons going no. So going into Two Towers, I was like, Fellowship was really cool. That was awesome. Hey, it's that kid from North, Wicked. Cool. So going into this, I remember being like, can something happen? And then like Helm's Deep happens and like Treebeard and all that stuff. There's the surfing shield meme that became out at that time. And John Rhys Davies, I only knew him from Sliders at the time as Professor Arturo. So my experience to him was really, really, really fucking shallow. And I really started to kind of get into it. But again, most of my Two Towers experience came from the video games and stuff like that, because the games that came out of Lord of the Rings, almost all of them are pretty much beloved outside of the most recent Gollum game, which we don't talk about that. But I remember the special editions, as Adam had mentioned. I remember when these came out, those were some really sought after collectors, because they literally gave you the gates that they visit when they go down the boat. It's those two colossi, whatever they're called. Or I remember like, or maybe it was like a Helm's Deep mini or something. I just remember the physical edition being really kind of a big deal. And you could get a box set of these Lord of the Rings movies that came in these awesome booklet-like things that like you could spread them out. It was like 4 discs or something.
Yep.
And having extensive. Yep. Sorry, Cap.
Those I believe were the DVD sets.
Yeah, and I remember people going absolutely ape shit for it. And again, like the big thing I remember was all the marketing around this was just like seeing people talking about it, so many interviews on the internet. Like I remember sites like comingsoon.net, Ain't It Cool News, and all these people just talking about this. It was a frenzy around a fandom that arguably had existed since the 1930s, you know, when the novels were originally written. I had never been exposed to it. Like I said, I didn't read The Hobbit till I was in probably high school. And I really didn't even know.
Do, actually.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd always heard The Hobbit was like a kid's book. And
yes, it was.
But it never comes, like, it feels like Tolkien never taught, or...
Oh, no, Tolkien doesn't talk down to people.
Yeah.
And both for the better and for the worse, in my opinion, because I still can't get through Lord of the Rings proper.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was like going into this, because like I
also said this during our fellowship talk, but I can't even get through it with Andy Serkis reading the audiobook.
Which I was just gonna say, I kind of want to get the audiobooks now, but I don't know. But yeah, it's like there was something special about just seeing a community of film nerds and just fantasy nerds just come together at the time. Because like I said, like most of my friend group at the time were either the tabletop role play dorks who knew all this shit, or they were film guys who liked your movies like your Jurassic Park, your Mission Impossibles, your Fast and the Furious, you know, all your like kind of popcorn flicks. And this found a way to combine those two worlds. And it makes me think of that friend I had at the time. It was exciting to watch his fandom come to life. Because this guy, I'm not going to call him stupid, because he really wasn't. Sheltered might be another way to put it. But he was so joyful in seeing these movies, and he was so excited to share that knowledge with us. And I remember asking him all these questions like, hey, why is this name this? What is this? What this is? Because this was before, at least to my knowledge, Wikipedia was really accessible or was a thing. So if you wanted to look up something about Lord of the Rings, somebody had to go out and create those Angel Fire or GeoCities bullshit web pages way back in the day. So you had to really find those Lord of the Rings geeks. Like I got a friend in my D&D group, my friend Nick, and I'll talk to him like, hey, what is the Cimmerillion? What the hell does this mean? And he'll explain it to me. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. You're like a walking wiki of this shit. And it's really kind of awesome. And there's been just so much about this, revisiting this experience with you guys has really made me appreciate it. And I will say this as we get deeper into the conversation. Today, it took until literally today's recording for something for Lord of the Rings to stick with me in a very positive way. King Theoden says, just as Adam was talking about the charge at Helm's Deep, forth and fear no darkness. I'm in a safe space and I can share this. That made me tear up, and I was like, I did not expect that this is a franchise that is beloved but not by me. That is changing, and I was like, I'm gonna take David's advice after this at some point, put my phone, power it down, lock it in the box, and bury it in concrete for like the entire march across Middle Earth and just live in those moments, because that is not something I expected to walk away from, was having an emotional response. And as you mentioned, Adam, this is Peter Jackson saying, I can do this. I've hit the home run, and this is him pointing up to the stands. Let me do it again. So with that, I throw to David.
So as I mentioned in our last episode, these movies are new to me, in the sense that I rented Fellowship when it came out, and then I've never seen Two Towers or Return until we're having these episodes talking about them. So Two Towers to me was held by the fact that I'd seen most of the story through the PS2 video game, which I played with my neighbors because they had it. So I learned a lot of stuff from that. As I mentioned also in the previous episode, I may or may not have been a part of doing recreations of said scenes, such as the release of Theoden King and Gandalf and Saruman's square off in the first movie. So there's lore in my head from the experiences of playing the games with my neighbors, making those videos, and also just the pop culture. Every time I think of Two Towers or Lord of the Rings in general, I just think of Randall's line in Clerks 2. Even the fucking trees walked in those movies.
I was thinking about that too.
So what's been interesting is last episode I also said that these were movies that I probably didn't see myself going back to after we're done doing these episodes. Having now seen Return of the King, watched it with my girlfriend for the first time last week. We watched the extended cut in one go, and I can honestly say it made me appreciate Fellowship more. Return of the King is up there now in regards to where it's going to hit me emotionally, because there was a lot of emotion struck in Two Towers. Two Towers was something that I knew was a good movie, but I didn't know if it was a good movie on... This is going to sound really fucking cunty, and I don't mean it to. If it was a good movie, like, in the level of standards, like, for falling into, like, something that I would revisit, favoritism sort of thing. So, what I was really taken aback by in this viewing was they flesh out the characters beautifully, of course, in Fellowship, and, like, raise us up to the journey, what's going to happen and whatnot. And as I mentioned last time we all got together, that I was not a fan of Frodo in the first movie because I just felt like he was not taking the mission seriously. That's one of the things I loved about Two Towers, is you really got to see him come to, and what it's taken is for him to turn totally fucking evil and almost kill Sam at one point in the movie. Like, that seriousness and the layers of these characters and whatnot, and, you know, I'm sure we'll talk about it in this episode, but, like, the fake out death of Aragorn at one point and all that stuff. Like, it's just, like, there's moments in these movies that are really, really strong. And I think... I don't think, Adam, I don't think you had dispersed me on saying this last time, was that, or discouraged me from saying that Two Towers is the one that's usually hailed as the best. Is that correct?
I mean, I think it's the one
people argue
this,
between Two Towers and Return, or maybe even Fellowship.
See, that's the thing, is, like, I feel like it kind of falls on that realm of which one is yours. But I think predominantly Two Towers has the most action of the series. Is that correct?
Good question. I mean, it's interesting that they do ratchet up the action. There is like big battle sequences, except for the at the beginning of Fellowship. There's really no big battle sequences in that movie.
Yeah.
I feel like the battles here are more impactful because the battles are on a larger scale. Like I said, I was watching Fellowship today, and yeah, you had the Mines of Moria set piece, and you had like the fight to the river. And this one, you had Helm's Deep. You had the
Mines of Moria. Mines of Moria is definitely the biggest battle of that movie, I would say, because even the final battle, it's kind of broken up a bit. It's kind of like you have sections of it with that final battle, where Mines of Moria, once that skeleton goes down that fucking shaft, you're just like, oh, we're in trouble now. Like, I distinctly remember that. And with Two Towers, obviously, you have the big final battle at the end, but you also have decent battles throughout that too. But I think what really grabbed me with Two Towers on this watch and made me kind of reassess where I may fall on this series is, I guess, getting all of the lore. Because, like I said, I'm watching the extended cuts of all of these. And, the nerd I am, I go to moviecensorship.com and I look up the differences to see, like, what is added and whatnot. And a lot of the stuff added in Two Towers versus Fellowship for me, I really benefited from Two Towers emotionally, whereas the extra Shire stuff and whatnot in Fellowship was really cool character development and some kind of gags you didn't get normally and some extra kills and whatnot. But overall, Two Towers, like, the fact that, like, I don't know how much of the theatrical cuts it out, but, like, most of the story of Aramir's dad and the relationship of that was some really, really good stuff that really fleshed out why his character was a bit of a twat at first.
Well, yeah, I have the Blu-ray extended and also the little pamphlet that actually tells you what's extended, what's new,
you mentioned that,
and whatnot. And Two Towers has a lot more of extended sequences, than it does new sequences.
And I think that's where it kind of benefits from, because like most of my knowledge comes from the role-playing game, which is built upon the lore that, is what's set out by the franchise and the lore keepers of it. So knowing some of this and having all that fleshed out, like how Dave was mentioning, why is Aramir such a fucking twit? I get it now. And I'm like, that really explains a lot. And one of the things that really excited me today was when they went to the Hall of Rahim, and with it took me a second. I'm like, hey, this is where the fucking anime took place.
Yes.
And recognizing all that shit and going back to Helm's Deep before it was called Helm's Deep, I was like, I know what that is. I know what that does. And there was something really exciting about knowing the lore going into this. And it feels, again, this may be like a D&D dork thing, but when oh, that's Eleminster and he showed up. Oh, that's Dritz to Orden and there's his fucking panther buddy. You get excited, and that's something that the extended editions, I think, really reward fans who are those lore nuts or people that are
absolutely
dipping their toes into this world, because it is so rich. The fact that Elvish is an official language with a script and everything and grammar and syntax rules, that's next level shit. Like that's like Klingon, and which I can speak a little bit, but not a lot.
Well, hell, you can get there's whole keycap sets for keyboards that's literally just Elvish.
What?
That's doing too much. That's doing too much.
Can you imagine? Like, just
I'm not even kidding. I'm not even joking.
I know you're not.
That's like speaking Latin. You're a little.
Hey, I took 3 years of it, and you know what I can say in Latin? I can say sex against a sex, which is 66, because the joke when we did bingo was B66, sex against a sex. That's a lot of sex. So I know that, and I also know. Correct me if I'm wrong, listener, on message board or email. I don't fucking know. Regardless, te fatui, I believe, is fuck you in Latin.
Well, there we go. Now I've learned something today.
But yeah, to wrap up my and move on to Ken for his thoughts on it. To wrap up my feelings on Two Towers, this was I'd said last episode I did not know if I was going to come back to the series. So far, Two Towers is one that I would absolutely revisit. Like if I had like housework to do and I needed something long to put on, it's either this or Casino, because both of those movies I'm going to be able to step away and still know what happens.
Very cool. All right, Ken, bring us home on
Calm.
your thoughts, and then we're just gonna talk in general.
So, I've talked about it in the Fellowship talk, but like, I'm not as high on Lord of the Rings as a lot of fantasy nerds are. I'm very pessimistic about Lord of the Rings as a franchise simply because these three films, Two Towers, Fellowship, and Return of the King, because of how high the bar is set with these movies, any other fantasy film gets basically blasted online, blasted by critics, that it's not Lord of the Rings. No, nothing is like Lord of the Rings. Stop comparing it. Stop doing that kind of shit. And it pisses me off on a regular basis when I'm a huge fan of fantasy. I love a lot of the modern fantasy films that we've gotten in the last decade or two after these films came out. And every single time they like bomb at the box office. And I'm like, what is going on? Is it because Lord of the Rings is just such a high watermark that that people are always going to start comparing it to that, and it's impossible to compare it to that? It really annoys me as a fantasy fan that these films exist and they're great. They're fantastic films, but they do a disservice to the entire fantasy genre by being so high quality that everything else looks like garbage.
That's a bold statement to make. I'm just gonna say like there's two things in there.
I've had so many people talk about like especially with like something like Warcraft. Warcraft is one of those high fantasy films that I absolutely adore. And there were so many interviews during the press tour of that movie where people kept comparing it to Lord of the Rings, and I'm like, you can't.
Well, but I think it's because that, like you said, while it is a high mark, but I think it also. I think my problem with saying that all fantasy is failing is things like Hunger Games that has now had a second resurgence.
I'm not saying fantasy is failing. I'm saying that people are not giving fantasy the due to do other things besides being Lord of the Rings.
I think you can say that about a lot of genres, though. I mean, how many mafia movies do you see that somebody, well, it's no Godfather. Well, how many things can be the Godfather?
I mean, in simplicity, fuck them. More for us then. I mean, if they want to have that attitude, fuck them. I mean, it's if you can't step away from a property or an IP and say, well, that's not like this, you're never going to be able to enjoy anything. It's kind of the same thing with, like, do you remember the craze of Walking Dead? How everyone was comparing stuff to Walking Dead, or this is Walking Dead meets blah, 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 blah. It's like, if you do that, then yeah, absolutely. You have that icon, that IP that you like, and there's nothing wrong with that. You are allowed to like your movies, you're allowed to like your TV shows, but don't get upset when it doesn't meet the expectations that you have set. It's just like how when It Chapter 1 was coming out, It Chapter 2, I was a part of a fan group. And then one day stuff started getting leaked to a point where it was just like, this is really cool, but I would be so much more excited seeing this in theaters for the first time than rather waiting for it to come. You are your own controller of your expectations on that. So if you want to compare Lord of the Rings to every single fantasy IP that comes out, that's your prerogative, but you're going to have a miserable time with it. So yeah, fuck them. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. I'd say a lot of the stuff about Doomsday too. There's just so much rumor mongering about what, like Avengers Doomsday. I mean, there's so much rumor mongering about what's in it that it's almost ruining the.
I'm going to say one thing. I'm going to say one thing about Doomsday that I will stand to 100%, and you can come at me with all your hate. I don't care. Hiring Downey back to be Doom is a mistake. I do not like it.
I concur 100%.
This is
I'm
I'm
I
willing
wanted
to
the Kang
let.
timeline personally.
Yeah, I'm willing. To,
I think
look,
most of us did. The only problem is Kang screwed that up.
Yeah, but like, I'm willing to let just the movie be the movie and not deal with the hype. I'm watching the official trailers. I'm not dealing with all the leaks and bullshit that's been going on, because who the fuck knows? Marvel might be leaking false information.
Oh, I
Like they
100% bet that.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
But like,
But
I-
Ken raises an interesting point.
Oh,
When you look at Lord of the Rings in a fantasy scope, like I was saying earlier, the bar is set weirdly high, but fantasy nerds, and again, I don't mean to speak for the entire fandom, this is just my observation. We do tend to compare it to, like, is it X, is it Y? And I think about, I'm going to make a weird comparison, but follow me here. You look at action movies, right?
mhm.
I think we can all agree Mission Impossible, amazing action sequences, right?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, yeah, no brainer. Yeah,
John Wick, outstanding fight choreography, amazing world building, very cool.
yes.
But action movies get measured differently. Correct. Like, not everybody says, oh, it's like John Wick, but whatever, or it's not Mission Impossible, but whatever. Like, you can have your Fast and the Furious, which is an action movie, which can do both of those things, like John Wick style gunfights to lesser degrees. You'll get amazing stunts, like Tom Cruise, but they're still not talked about in the same conversation. With Lord of the Rings, like Ken said, Warcraft gets compared to it, which is unfair because they're not the same thing. And that's one thing that I think I was guilty of, because I'm like, why is this not as cool? Yet I think I found a mid-tier fantasy movie, which is fucking fantastic, and it's one of my favorites, probably because of the IP, Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves.
Great movie.
And yet there was another movie,
a lot of fun.
I can't remember what the fuck it was called, but it was a direct to streaming video, and it was like another fantasy movie involving some woman warrior with an orc and I think like a knight or something. I can't remember what the hell it was called. but it was
You're
like
thinking of
Irv-
Predator Badlands.
yeah, which is fucking awesome, and I would defend that movie.
I'm getting
you-
ready
yeah.
to watch it for the first time.
Oh, my
next week,
God.
So I'm
You're gonna have a
excited
fun
to check it
time.
out.
Yeah, have a fun.
But no, but I think to piggyback off what you're saying though, Mike,
Yeah.
and Ken for this matter, I think it also is the absurdity of the statement that I'm about to make is kind of where I believe their minds are at, where it's just like, imagine if I loved Jaws to a degree that I compared every single other shark movie to Jaws. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So I mean, if
It's-
the expectations are that high, that's on that person. That's not on anything of the movie.
I
I
kind
also
of
say
feel
that
like
movies have their moments. Like, I think the thing with the I agree, the Warcraft movie was better than I expected, but I also think that
It's
movie
fun.
comes out 5 years too late.
Well,
The
yeah,
Yes.
moment.
Well, that
but
time
I mean,
time was not fair to the Warcraft movie.
how many movies can
Yes.
you say that about though? How many movies get these
Yeah.
release dates in January that are genuinely decent movies? Like I think I've gone on stand for it before, but I don't know why everyone hates Public Enemies. I think Public Enemies is a pretty decent movie.
is that
overall.
the
Okay.
Johnny Depp movie?
Johnny Depp, the gangster film that
You know what's
It's
weird?
not. It's not
I interviewed
John
interviewed-
Dellinger, yeah.
I interviewed the FBI agent who was the weapon consultant on that movie, weirdly enough, like a number of years ago. Weird
Yeah.
how that comes back into my life every couple years.
Well, it's because Michael Mann is one of those directors that people want to compare his movies to his last movies, and it's just like you
Mhm.
can't do that because he's all over the spectrum. I mean, motherfucker was the one who, even though it's not technically his version, but I mean, he gave us The Keep, which until about the last couple of years has been a largely lost film unless you had bootlegs.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think there comes a point where it's just like, you know, we can say on this podcast, this episode in particular, that like, yeah, Lord of the Rings is a high prestige, you know, IP, and you know, maybe Rings of Power unfortunately isn't bringing the power like this trilogy did. But I think if you compare it to it, I mean, yeah, you're probably going to set yourself up for some disappointment. So I mean, you can still enjoy these movies, but like,
oh yeah,
for something to meet the iconography and the lore, I mean, behind this, that's a large undertaking. You're asking an independent IP to take on, for that matter. I'm not saying that Warcraft isn't an independent IP. It's more so, I think. I mean, shit, was Warcraft when was so nerdy people in the chat? When was like the first edition of Warcraft released?
I think in like the mid '90s.
Original Warcraft.
96, 97.
And when was The
Warcraft
Hobbit
Yeah.
released?
The movie or the book?
No, the book.
The book,
The
1930
book,
something.
30 something.
30
Yeah.
something, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
37,
even
39.
then, you have all this time to build up the
90
fandom and whatnot.
For the record, it is 94 when the
Oh,
first
okay.
Warcraft
The first Warcraft
RTS
okay.
came. When the first
yeah.
TS came
Yeah.
out, yeah.
But yeah, to wrap it up, it's just like if you set this to the standards of Lord of the Rings and try to pit something against it, then that's your own problem. And that's honestly a big issue I have with jaded moviegoers, which is a whole nother podcast. So we'll move on.
Yeah. But to like talk about Lord of the Rings in like just to kind of get into a general conversation about this, one of the things that I really appreciate about these movies, it's the scale, it's the scope, and looking particularly at costumes and weaponry and stuff like that. Like, I'm a big sword guy. I was just looking at some of the things, like even to like watching just how I think it's King Theoden when he gets his sword back from Gandalf, he's like, your fingers would feel better if they were to touch your sword again, and just seeing the life come back into him. And I was just looking at the craftsmanship on some of the weapon, and then noticing the costuming, how like all of the Fellowship characters have, it's like a brooch that holds their cloaks together. It's like that
Yep.
gold leaf thing. I was like, that's really intricate. And I remember for a hot minute when Lord of the Rings jewelry was everywhere, and you could get the weapons from, I think it was United Cutlery. They're not practical, but they're cool looking. And one of my favorite weapons in the entirety of the franchise, there are two. Arwen's sword, because it's that big, long, elvish blade. And the other one is the Uruk-hai scimitar, which is that huge, looks like a fucking butcher knife, but it's long. And I'm like, holy shit, that thing looks wicked. And again, I was just watching how they were forging it today when they're in Isengard. And I was like, that's really kind of cool. And to like even expand upon this, like to look about the makeup, like I was curious, like, what's the difference between a goblin and an orc? And from what I can tell, there is very, very little, but the Uruk-hai are different. Because they're bred specifically between Orcish and Dunduran men. There's even half orcs, but that's a whole different thing they only really kind of talk about. And I may have got some of that wrong, so Lord of the Rings dorks, yell at me in Dundurian or Numenorian or fuck off, I don't know. But it's like, it's really kind of incredible just seeing all the little things that really make this world come alive. And the thing that Peter Jackson does in this is it seems so natural. Like, as Ken said, the books never talk down to you for better or worse. I never felt like the movie ever punished me for not being an expert. I felt like it rewarded me. If you want to learn more about this elvish script, go learn it. If you want to learn more about the history, you might be surprised. And just looking at little things here and there, like there was like when the first Uruk-hai comes out of the muck and they're prying him out of that membrane, there was something I loved about seeing the evil corruption of Sauron's magic on this group of people. I mean, and goblinoids, much like in D&D, are irredeemably evil. That's just how it is. I liked how there's a point where one of the goblins or one of the orcs is on top of the tower of Sauron, and he's like, "Sir, we don't have enough wood. We don't have enough water to run the forges day and night. You're going to have to give us a break." He's like, "Well, then burn the forest. Build a dam. Do whatever you have to, but make it fucking happen."
And then when Merry and Pippin make Treebeard go through that fucking forest, and he's just like, "Oh, these were all my friends and family, and y'all just done fucked up." And it's there's moments in this movie that like you beautifully said it, the rewarding. It's just like, you know, you get that in early on. I mean, because that's like in the first 20 minutes is they're chopping down that forest, and then it's like literally the last 40-ish minutes is when he gets to that forest and like calls on his tree buds to come fuck stuff up.
There is a line that he says, Treebeard, and he's talking to Merry and Pippin, and he sees the ruins of his force that was burned to power the Isengard war machine, and he's like, I knew some of these trees when they were walnuts, when we used to talk, when we used to sing. And it's weird because I'm going to connect it to indigenous culture. that hit me in a way I didn't expect. And he says to Merry and Pippin, and he just lets out this howl of pain that echoes across the plains of Middle Earth. And he's like, there's not a word in Halfling, in Elvish, Dwarvish, or of man that conveys the pain that I'm feeling. And much like Dave just said, you just done fucked up. And all his buddies come storming Isengard, and it's like, holy shit.
It's also laid out because the whole end philosophy is like, we're here for hundreds and thousands of years, and you see that in like their
it's not our
gathering.
Fight. Yeah.
Right. You know, and they're like talking about what to do about Merry and Pippin, and that's the whole movie for Merry and Pippin, when you see what these trees are going to do with them.
I have a question specifically about the ends in regards to the scene when all the orcs run into the forest. We don't see the aftermath or the actual killing. We just see all the trees moving and hear the sounds. Do they have like the power to like, I mean, because you see at one point they almost like smother Merry and Pippin when they wake up and go to drink that water or whatever. But like, do they have the power to like pierce and like penetrate and whatnot? Because like, I'm just like imagining this thing like, throwing a branch and like impaling 3.
Oh yeah, probably.
I would assume that at a pretty obvious point that like smothering, but also those roots are going to start injecting themselves within the bodies and whatnot.
That's and I think that's what I love about it is it's like you could obviously, you know, Jackson in his background of his horror films and whatnot, he could have shown us some really grotesque stuff. But I love the fact that again, like my brain went there, even though it was just seeing the trees move. It was just like, I wonder what's going on to those orcs right now. Like I bet it's really unpleasant and gross.
But like, but also the main analogy that Tolkien used with the Ents was an analogy towards the United States during World War II.
You can't stay neutral forever.
You can't stay neutral forever.
Yeah.
And that's...
I love that that he has to be convinced to fight and to call others to fight. Because Merry and Pippin are so smart to bring him to that section, because otherwise, you know, he's taking them back to where they were found, and they've been determined to not be orcs. And the conference that took whatever a day and a half for the trees to talk and whatnot, it's just like it didn't get anywhere. It took him seeing the actual devastation versus hearing about it.
Yeah.
And then it's immediate action. It's like, okay.
Immediate. Fucked around and found out. Like that is exactly how it goes. And you know, I think because piggyback.
I think it was also just the level of betrayal, because Saruman was always so close to, because he was so close to the forest, being in Isengard. Like it
was a betrayal.
It was a huge betrayal.
Yeah.
Like he considered Saruman a friend, and for him to just stab him in the back like that and kill all those young,
essentially children.
Those young children, just like, nope.
There was another part that I really like, and I'm guessing this was in the extended edition because I haven't watched the theatrical since it came out. Really, it's where Elrond is talking to Arwen and talking about her relationship with Aragorn. She's like, you gotta come with me, man.
That's 100% extended.
Like, and it's so good because, like, I know he's Númenorian and he has an extended life. Like, he says to Theoden's daughter, like, oh yeah, I'm 87. She's like, what? He's like, well. And Elrond says to Arwen, he's like, he's gonna live a long time, but eventually he's going to die, whether in war or whether the ravages of time, and you will be alone again. And if you leave now with me to the west or whatever it is, at least your love stays in your heart, and that's how it is. At least you keep it. You don't have to watch it wither and die. And I love how she says something along the lines of like, and this was in the first movie, because again I watched them two so close together. I'd rather have one lifetime with you than a lifetime without you. And there's so much powerful writing. And this is honest. Sorry, Ken, go ahead.
But honestly, to me, doing this rewatch, what is sticking with me more than anything else is Aragorn's journey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not only through Fellowship, but also with Two Towers, especially with Two Towers, because mostly, for the most part, Two Towers I'm not as high on, the Aragorn stuff is still engaging to me,
Mhm.
but that's about it. Like,
I feel
and
like
it's weird.
I feel like Two Towers has some of the best character development for certain characters. Like
Yes.
you feel like I feel like I'm more connected to Sam and Frodo in a lot of ways just through their conversation bits, especially like how Adam brought up that little speech at the end of Two Towers. That's so exceptionally well delivered. And watching Sam grow from making fun of Gollum to saying, you know what, no hard feelings, we got to get going. Frodo looked out for you because he believes there's still something good in you. And watching Aragorn confront death and saying, you know what, we face it together. Like, I didn't get as much character from him as I wanted from Gimli and Legolas, but I feel like they're just characters there to represent the other free people of Middle Earth, which is fine. I mean, you do get some background with them, but not a whole hell of a lot. The Galadriel thing was kind of neat, although largely superfluous, I feel, in some ways. But again, that's something I had to look up as to why does she turn weird? And I had to look that up, like, oh, I get it now. She's one of those demigod people.
I think what grabbed me, honestly, on this viewing, which, first viewing, technically, I think the Gandalf stuff is great. I think the Gandalf, the white stuff, I think if you did a mega cut of all of that stuff together, I would be curious to see how that story played with just his scenes specifically, because I feel like a lot of the pull for this movie is a lot of his stuff, because I feel like we thought we had lost him in Fellowship, which kind of got me thinking, and you had mentioned this at the beginning of the episode, Birdman, about how we like kind of base action movies. You could almost break up this trilogy into the action portion, the development portion, and then I don't know specifically what I would call return yet. Yeah. I mean, yeah, but like I guess my point being is, like, I feel like if somebody was possibly interested in Lord of the Rings, I personally would probably want to show them Two Towers first before I showed them Fellowship. Because I feel like while there is a lot of story in Fellowship, I feel like if I just fill in the gaps in that first beginning of, hey, this is what happened with these guys, that's what they're doing, anybody could pick up on this movie for the most part and follow along not having seen Fellowship.
Yeah,
I don't feel like there's key pieces.
It's weird that you mentioned that, because my wife hates Lord of the Rings, but I think there's a reason and there's not a reason. Allow me to explain. So my wife watched this movie with a boyfriend many years ago. So obviously there's this negative association. She found the first movie really fucking boring. I can't say I disagree with that. So I think, Dave, you're on to something. I think if I showed her Two Towers, maybe just the theatrical cut, just, to save herself like 30, 40 minutes, I think she might dig it, because she loved Game of Thrones. She even liked House of the Dragon. We're even getting ready to watch Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which, as of this episode, comes out in like a week or two. I think that's an interesting way to approach it, because I feel like Two Towers, if you gave them like, okay, here's a 20-minute primer, here's a really good YouTube recap, cool, go. You could do that, because this movie has great character building, wonderful action scenes, and if you want to dig, you don't have to, but you are not punished for not reading the homework. Yeah. Which feels the antithesis of a Marvel movie. If someone says, oh man, there's Frank Castle. Who?
Well, like, or I mean, maybe I'm pissing on somebody's leg when I say this, but I feel like it's a bold comparison, but I think it is largely true. If you think about it, you could show somebody Empire Strikes Back and them having not seen Star Wars or A New Hope, and they'd probably still follow along. I know those are two major IPs we're comparing there, which, kind of goes back to what Ken said earlier. But at the same time, I think it has a lot to do with that this Two Towers feels a lot more involved. It feels a lot more like the action is dire, the meaning. Because I feel like when you set out... Yeah, it feels like when you set out with the Precious at the beginning of Fellowship, it's just like I said, like I had the problem with Frodo last time. It just didn't feel serious enough. He didn't feel like the danger was there. And I mean, and he got stabbed. He got threatened multiple times. In this one, he literally gets taken hostage no less than, 2 times?
At least.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like I feel like there's a lot of higher stakes in this, obviously, because the final tower battle and also everything going on with the ring getting stronger, Frodo's evil getting more and more strengthened and lengthened for that point too. So I think it's not out of line to say that if you were going to break this trilogy into certain parts, Two Towers might be the strongest film to actually start somebody's interest into it.
The way I like the way I'm seeing it, especially with this rewatch, Two Towers is like the first part of a two-part character story. Because a lot of characters don't have like a beginning, middle, of an end. It's just like maybe a beginning and middle. And we don't have the end, which is Return of the King.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in that sense, it doesn't feel like there are parts of it that feel like a complete movie, and then there are parts of it that don't feel like a complete movie. Fellowship feels like a complete movie.
But
and
I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah,
It's a lot to what we're talking about here. That's like, you know, one of the things is that I think Peter Jackson was smart. Like, each one of these is self-contained; they're part of a whole.
Yes,
it is episode.
Yes.
And you know, in the movie, there's these episodic bits as well. You know, the Aragorn and Legolas and Emily following the orcs, and then, you know, meeting Gandalf in the woods, which takes them to Rohan, and then there's this whole evacuation of
Raheem.
Rohan, and
Yeah.
yeah. So
Self-contained is a good way to put that, because
Yeah.
like Mike said, the whole thing with Marvel, it's like the more I'm chewing over that, it's just like, yeah, no, that is a good point. Like, you can jump on a Marvel movie at some point and you haven't seen a end credits scene from Thor: Dark World that played into this movie that came 3 movies. Like, that's
Yeah,
actually
you
a
can
big
see
deal.
the scene out of like a Marvel.
we have fallen
TV
into Marvel movies are TV shows now, and as a result, it's
homework.
homework, yeah.
It is oh god, what's the word for the TV shows back in like the 60s that had like a new episode every fucking day?
Soap operas.
No,
Yes.
not soap operas. I'm thinking of
Serials?
Serials. Yeah, no, not serials. Shit, it's just it basically it's long term. I mean, like, literally, Marvel has become that 120 episodes you have to watch, even if it does include a TV show and the movies. It's just like they are all consistent now, even though they're all different stories.
There's a
This
storytelling.
self-contained
Yeah,
one.
there's a storytelling economy in this where it's a big broad story that takes place over 3 movies. There are individual stories in each movie, and then in each movie there are little stories, and then it's also about character development. The first film is, you know, just looking at Aragorn, and Aragorn is about someone who has like lived on the outskirts of society and has not felt at home anywhere, and taking, you know, coming out into taking this leadership position. In the Two Towers, he's accepting this mantle of leadership and is leading like full armies of men. And in the third chapter, it's about him accepting that he is the rightful king and taking up that mantle fully.
Oh, spoilers. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
It's literally called Return of the King.
Yeah.
If we had a trailer, this would be the audio clip right there.
I think you make a good point, Adam, though, too, because I think Birdman, between you saying the Marvel thing, Ken, between you saying people comparing a thing, and Adam with you saying the story breakdown beats of it, I think that also comes with the fact that we are also talking about a movie series that is 20 years old now. So it also says a
25.
lot. Yeah, I mean, over 20 years.
Depending.
Apologies, yeah. But it says a lot about where our attention span has gone as an audience, you know, in the last couple decades versus, you know, this was 2003 was this 2002 or 2003?
2003, I want to say.
2002 is Two Towers. 2003 is Return of the Thing.
Right.
So yeah, you're talking about you literally wait a year. Whereas, you know, I think I mentioned this either last episode, if not a couple episodes ago. Welcome to Derry. We're going to wait 2 years now for the season. Stranger Things just wrapped up, and it's taken us 8 years to get 5 seasons.
Yeah.
So, you know, is that on the audience necessarily, or is that on the studios? Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, has become a colossal failure in a lot of people's eyes and is laughed at more so than it's actually appreciated. Are they even still going with it?
I think so, but I'm not 100% sure.
They're committed to 3 seasons.
Well,
they have to make 3 seasons at least because of rights and bullshit.
And Jeff Bezos is like a Lord of the Rings nerd, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
We're all
He's
Lord
also
of the Rings nerds.
Of course. But no, back to what I was saying. It's just like, you know, I think it has a lot to do with the storytelling in these films, especially for Two Towers, for me personally. Again, still haven't seen Return yet, even though just had it spoiled, but it's fine.
I can
think
feel
the
Adam
story-
face palming from here.
No, I'm fine. I can live with it.
Next, you're going to tell me the Titanic sinks at the end, right?
No, they were fine. They got to New York okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was a good
thank
time. That's why there's a sequel that has like a talking rat. Didn't you know?
Oh my god!
Rose and Jack got married and won World War One together.
Yeah.
Off
Yeah.
topic of everything we're talking about, have you fuckers seen or know about the existence of Titanic, the legend, or the story continues, or the story
Yes.
goes on?
Yes.
Yes.
Heard of it.
Oh,
Yes.
buddy.
Oh, the A&E
buddy.
miniseries?
No, this is
No.
an animated
Oh,
movie,
okay.
which at the end
You-
has a wrap up rap to let everybody know where
Yeah.
the characters ended up at. Again, a
Also-
movie about the Titanic.
Also, you know, there's a third one.
I do.
Titanic, the Reckoning? What?
There's a
The movie in
third
the 70s
and
called
there's
Race
a
the Titanic, wasn't there?
Yeah, no, Raise
Yeah.
Titanic's solid. And so Titanic 2 that Tubi did was actually pretty interesting. It has nothing to do with Titanic, which is such a bold
Yeah.
strategy for titling. I digress,
Yeah.
though. My point being is having seen Fellowship, having seen Two Towers now, and having all those talks about the storytelling basis we have, the way that you can jump in almost at any point, and with some fill-ins, you can still keep going with it. I think this is a series that proves why it was so big, why it's still so loved, and genuinely why it's still good. Because that's not an easy thing to combine. Like, I mean, we were talking about it off mic. There was a Witches remake of the 1990 movie that came out in 2020. And the CGI in that film, compared to me watching Chamber of Secrets this afternoon or Two Towers last week, night and fucking day of both looking good, believability, and use, practical use. There's a lot of practical effects in Lord of the Rings, but there's also an incredible use of CGI that's not overdone. There's a lot to like about these movies so far, but Two Towers especially just grabbed me in with this story and didn't let go.
Yeah, like I think Adams, you've just said a phrase I don't think I'm ever going to forget. Storytelling economy. And when you look through the lens of how these movies were made, specifically because they filmed all three of these back to back. And yeah, they do that with certain movies today, but it doesn't feel the same. And
it literally is not. Like
I don't know how studios could do certain things. Like I don't get
the fact that they gave Peter Jackson the
time
money,
and money. Yeah.
the time to do this.
And shot all three back to back. I just want to say that first and foremost, like all three back to back. That is a big fucking thing. Can you imagine if they recently did that with any of the Marvel movies or any of the Star Wars movies for that matter? If they did, they said, "Okay, guys, we're gonna go shoot the new trilogy back to back to back."
Denis wanted to do the first Dune Part 1 and Part 2 back to back.
Yeah, I do remember that. That's just something you don't get anymore, and I think that also has a lot to do with the last
time. But like the last time we saw that was Hunger Games, and that did not pay off.
They shot those back to back to back.
They shot
the first two, right?
Well, no, they shot with Hunger Games. The last Catching Fire.
Oh,
they shot Part 1 and Part 2 back to back.
That makes sense. But I mean, I think with this is interesting too, though, because as far as the timeline goes for Lord of the Rings, each movie leads into the next movie.
Yes.
How X amount, does anybody have an idea of what amount of time passes on all the three of these movies?
Like
it took about two.
Yeah.
No, it took about in universe.
In universe from
40
Fellowship
days.
to Return. Is it 40 days?
Minimum 40 days. But
that's interesting.
I think it's longer than that because
I think so.
they're walking like miles.
Well,
They
there was
are.
something Gandalf said.
would,
He says
something
to
around
Frodo, yeah, he says if we cross this patch of land, it should take us 40 days to reach these mountains, and then we have to trek further to Mordor.
Gotcha.
So I would guess minimum 6 months because they do get like
I would argue.
Let's be kind and say 6 months. So
Yeah,
I mean, I
6
guess
months
that
to a
makes sense to shoot chronologically with the Hunger Games movies. I think Mockingjay 1 and 2.
Mockingjay.
Catching Fire.
Mockingjay
yeah.
1 2.
Sorry, you screwed me up there with that, but that's
it
not
is
your fault.
Yeah. It is
Mockingjay 1 and 2 shot back to back totally makes sense. Hunger Games to Catching Fire, there's I think a year difference.
Yes, it is a full year.
So that makes sense to kind of not shoot back to back. I mean, I guess in that realm. My point being is, I think you have to really take a look at both the patience of the audience that we had, on top of the storytellers we had, and the faith of the studios, for that matter. I mean, New Line was betting a lot, so that
New
is
Line,
something that you're not
New
going
Line
to get
would
from
have
a lot
got
of people.
if this wasn't successful. New Line would have been officially bankrupt.
It would have been only known as the house that Freddie built, and Lord of the Rings crashed.
Yeah,
I mean, I believe while this was in production, Warner Brothers bought them.
Yeah,
I do
sounds
believe that's
about
what
right.
happened. While in the middle of this production, and yeah, it's just this is an insane achievement, and it will remain an insane achievement. And no, the only thing that I can argue is somewhat close to it would be probably Wicked, but again, if
in terms of
Wicked
projects
is
that
its
have like
own
massive
beast.
expectations that have a
Yeah,
clear
'cause
fan base and
I think
had
Wicked's
to deliver with like fans and noobs. But
I think Wicked's unfair to compare, because I think Wicked A has taken so long, but B, I'm gonna be honest, like there's not a single fucking memorable song for me in Wicked for Good. Like I'm gonna be honest, like
there's some Wicked 2 scenes I like, but you're right, there's no songs that hit like Defying Gravity.
I don't know if I'm gonna go back to the second one as much as I would go back to the first one again. I think the first
yeah.
one has a lot of whimsicalness to it.
As someone who is a fan of the original musical, I knew For Good was going to disappoint people.
I liked it. But you guys
I didn't hate it. I didn't
You're allowed
hate
to
it.
like
It
things. It's fine.
It did a lot of good things. It did a lot of good things to fix things, but
my problem with
there's
Wicked
still a
is
mess.
that I'm such a Wizard of Oz fan that when they show the blips of Wizard of Oz in there, I try to placate. I try to placate in the story if I'm seeing what I was supposed to have seen in Wizard of Oz to where we're at in the one point of Wicked. So it's like, wait a minute, did the Wicked Witch pop around and fuck up with Dorothy, and then when Dorothy leaves, she pops back and talks to Glenda? Like, that's what my brain is doing. It's just like, wait a minute, I remember her appearing.
You're trying to marvelize the fucking timeline, basically.
I am, and that's I think that's the problem with that kind of.
There's
IP
also so much literal gaslighting of the Scarecrow in the original Wizard of Oz.
Dude, when the fucking again, somebody who had not seen the play, who did not know anything about the book, like went into Wicked blind, only knowing Wizard of Oz. That Scarecrow scene really messed with me, because I was just like, oh, this changes the story a bit, because, well, now was he just dropped there and having been tortured by like, it's just what we're supposed to go with is just like, oh yeah, Dorothy finds him, he's just been there the whole time. No, if we're going by Wicked standards, he was just dropped there like an hour ago.
Or how the Tin Man is
like a tortured guy.
Is a tortured maniac. There's so much wrong with Wicked.
Wicked
in
is
terms
absolutely
of messing with things.
Worth a watch. They're both worth a watch if you're a fan and everything. But yeah, if you go into it just a fan of Wizard of Oz, might have a rough time.
I think Wicked Part 1 as a cinematic achievement is far and beyond one of the greatest cinematic achievements post-COVID.
Yeah, I'd agree. To swing this around and kind of like the final question I'll ask today.
Yeah.
You guys had mentioned there aren't movies that are made like this anymore, that are made back to back. And I heard someone mention Dune. Are there any franchises that could benefit by being shot like Lord of the Rings? Because you go back in the day, movies that were shot back to back, The Matrix 2 and 3, Reloaded and Revolutions, and then we had to wait like 20 years to get Revelations, which we'll talk about that series at some point on the show, I'm sure.
Resurrections,
that's it. And it's like Dune, I could see them doing that, but you would have to give Villeneuve like literally, okay, dude, here's like 2.5, 3 years. Here's your budget, go to town. And then you could release Dune 1, Dune 2, and 2 and 3. I think that's a franchise that loses relevance the longer it sits on a shelf.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we're getting Dune 3 by the end of this year.
We'll see. It's like
question mark.
Yeah, question mark. We'll fucking see if the world's still here by then. But it's like, what do you do though? Like Lord of the Rings, it feels like that's one of those franchises where you needed to have that yearly release. Here's your story. We're going to ride the interest. And they knew exactly how to navigate that. Could you do this with certain Marvel properties? Maybe just Avengers level, but not like, here's 3 Iron Mans in a row. Here's 3 Thors, whatever. No one cares. But I can't see any other franchises that could benefit from having the yearly cycle. It maintains excitement, is culturally relevant. Like, you're not going to do this with Fast and the Furious or Mission Impossible.
No,
Like,
I think it would. I think you would have to have a lore that is so strong that it is either a
carries you.
book. It is either a book or it is a long-running series of games. But I think it also has a lot to do with the set story that you have. Because, I mean, can you imagine trying to shoot Resident Evils in order? I mean, that would have been... It's weird because, like, you could take this from 2 perspectives. You could take it from the perspective of then there's no meddling of any degree. Because if you think about David Gordon Green's trilogy for Halloween, what Halloween Ends was supposed to be versus what we actually ended up getting in the end because of COVID actually changed the story a lot. And some could say, depending on fandom of the film, for the better or for the worse. I think it has a lot to do also with the point of where we were at with media in regards of entertainment for box office and how theaters were still pulling in. We're at a very weird time now where we're kind of, again, going back to what Ken said at the beginning, kind of comparing this to stuff that we kind of can't, because I think
We're
it
at
also...
a crossroads.
Yeah, I think this whole thing of streaming and, spin-off book series or, new serial comics, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to lop it in with, I think it's hard to figure out something that would shoot back to back to back in this day and age, because now there's so much influence in regards of the way they have to put out trailers, the way they have to have, sponsored events or whatnot, merchandising. All that stuff has changed.
Think for a minute, if they never made Lord of the Rings and we were going to make Lord of the Rings as a movie for the first time today, how would they approach it? They would
horribly.
They would do
horribly.
They would
multi-year delay.
Yeah, there would be that, but there would also be a Gandalf solo movie, and there would be a Saruman origin movie.
Bombadil, the animated series.
I think.
Yes,
I think also
Bombadil
this brings up the discussion then too of let's go ahead and bring the Hobbit into the chat. Nobody asked for it. Nobody asked for it.
See,
it just kind of happened.
Hobbit, like Hobbit trilogy, don't get. Hobbit movie, I get. But trilogy,
I held up that book again at a bookstore last week, and I looked at it, and I said, how did we get 3 movies out of you? It said nothing to me, which is good, because that means my sanity is still intact. But I still don't understand how we got 3 fucking movies out of that book, except a bunch of fucking side quests, which, again, no one fucking asked for.
It's a video game. It's just full of side quest bloat.
Side quest bloat.
There's a lot that happened with The Hobbit that kind of snowballed into hell.
It's supposed to be a GDT joint, yeah.
Just do not remember.
GDT was going to do 2 movies.
Yes, that I remember.
Fine. But when GDT decided to leave, it was right before production was supposed to start. All these people were hired and ready to go, and so Peter Jackson had to step in. And in order to save the production from going off the rails, because they hadn't finished the second movie's plot and writing and everything, they decided to make it 3 movies.
So, okay, then I guess that kind of goes back to what you were saying, Birdman, with what property would you shoot this back to back? I would absolutely have done It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2. I still say to this day, I think it was a mistake for them to break that into 2 productions.
Yeah.
I don't mind it being 2 pieces, because I like the fact that I've got 2 really long pieces of media that I enjoy.
I get that.
But even to talk about streaming for just a moment here, you'd mentioned Welcome to Derry earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind waiting a year, maybe 2, for a television series if the episodes are of such exceptional quality. And what I mean by that is Welcome to Derry I thought was fucking awesome. Almost no notes. Really enjoyed it. But I look at a show like Fallout. That took 2 years to get between season 1 and 2. Awesome. But they're going to shoot season 2 or season 3 this summer. My guess is we're going to see it by Super Bowl next year, maybe next summer or whatever. I'd rather, unless you're willing to commit to the highest level quality, I don't mind waiting. Like
Well,
I know, for
also
example,
the thing with Fallout specifically is they have a 5-season plan.
But
They
something
have
like,
that
say,
all
The
set.
Last of Us, that's going to be a big problem because I think the
Yeah.
wait between seasons 1 and 2, that's way too long. While it's an amazing story and it's amazing acted and I love it, you know, now that the big thing has happened, I'm not going to spoil it for people. Yes, it's been a while, but still, I'm not going to do that. Where do you go? And I don't know if they've even said, hey, we're shooting this summer or whatever.
The whole Etch-a-Sketch has been shaken. I mean, that's honestly the
Yeah.
market is now, and that's also the consumption we have as viewers. It is largely our fault because we kind of demanded as a whole that we would binge TV shows dropped an entire season at once. So, you know, with that in mind, you know, you don't have the regular study that you would have in progression of box office, or, you know, how did this episode view this week when we dropped it into the lineup and whatnot. Like, all that's gone and based off of streaming data now. So I think it's hard to pinpoint exactly where
But
this
there's
would
also
be. Go ahead.
there's also the problem. There's no singular zeitgeist
No,
of pop culture
it's
anymore.
No
media is an
monoculture anymore.
ever-changing thing too. I mean, they've literally tried to launch multiple watching devices. What was the one that was the like 2-minute videos that was up for a hot
Quibi!
minute? That
Quibi!
like
Quibi!
Quibi, like all that kind of stuff. Like, they're always trying to do something new, but the problem is that people have largely spoken that these streaming platforms are where we'll go for content, sometimes even more so than the theaters. So it begs that question of, are you going to lose your audience by delivering the product they're asking for, but it taking longer to shoot? Because if that's the case, then we're going to be into a lot of trouble with a lot of these IPs that they're getting the rights to, because they're going to start putting out garbage, which they already kind of started to have.
Yeah, like, I mean, one of the final points I want to make in this is we talked about Amazon Studios. Rings of Power has largely been a disappointment. And I've asked Lord of the Rings guys, I'm like, is this worth watching? They're like, not really. Just go watch the movies. I'm thinking, well, that's a scary endorsement. Okay, that sucks. Because I was looking forward to having Lord of the Rings TV show. That's awesome. And now that I'm getting back into the fandom with you guys, that's neat. That's cool. But if they say it's not worth watching, that sucks. Yet I look at Amazon and how they've adapted something like Invincible, which is fucking awesome. The Boys, fucking awesome. But they also have one of my favorite IPs in their pocket, and they're starting to talk about it now, Mass Effect.
Yep.
How are you not going to fuck that up? And again,
they've got Mass Effect. They've also got
God of War.
God of War, which is going to start production.
They've had God of War has been a hinted at movie for years.
Well, we're getting a TV show. It's a TV show.
And they finally cast the guy. I think the guy who played Thor in the last game.
Yes.
Is like, cool.
He's playing Kratos.
I'm gonna quote Lorne Michaels.
They actually have a whole. They have a whole laundry list of cast.
I'm gonna quote Lorne Michaels when Bill Hader tried to do a Vincent Price sketch on the show, like in the 2020s. Why now?
Yeah. Well,
I'm like, is there a God of War fandom out there anymore?
Yes.
Okay.
After the last 2 games, yes.
But I feel like it's
they
almost
are making a Masters of the Universe movie this year too,
which looks fucking ugh.
I don't want to. No, it's.
I love his Netflix series, by the way.
I do too. I really like it.
It's Travis Knight.
Same. That's the guy who did Bumblebee, right?
Yep. Yes.
It might be okay then. Who knows? But I don't like what I've seen. But
who knows?
The
only big screaming thing that is telling me I'm not sure is Jared Leto as Skeletor.
What?
I'm gonna make a statement here and right now. Jared Leto, we don't need you in movies. It's time to go. Stop killing franchises before they start.
I'm shitting in rage.
Yeah.
No, fuck you. You're not Skeletor.
A God of War property, though, a TV show even. I'm sorry, but you have to have the gore that is in those games. And in which case, you got to hire somebody like the KMB effects team, if not the team that did Terrifier, to get to the level of gore in those games. Because if you have that fandom, they are there because of those visuals.
Damien, we all should consult.
Jesus. I forget who's they've got a really good showrunner on board. I forget his damn track record. Give me a sec.
But still, we're getting off track.
Yeah, we're
but-
getting off track.
But yeah, I mean, I guess is kind of our closing thoughts for Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. This is, as much as I like the idea Fellowship, it didn't sell me. Two Towers did. And that's something I didn't expect. What led me to do this project with you guys over the course of the last few months, but what this arguably started for me over a year ago, when I went to go see War of the Raheem, the anime, that really brought me like, you know what? I miss fantasy movies, but I just kept putting it off, putting it off, and putting it off. And going back to Fellowship, I'm thinking, I like this, but I don't love it. And I feel like I'm a bad fantasy person for not loving it and, you know, giving Peter Jackson satisfaction, if you get what I'm saying. But when I watched Two Towers, like Dave said, I'm invested. I care. I want to see this. And with what Adam said, you see a storytelling economy emerge. You start to see how movies were differently made back then. And even with Ken, I can't ignore that high bar, but to go back to Dave's point, I don't have to listen to that bar anymore. I like this is in its own thing, but I don't have to compare it to like The Green Knight or Conan or whatever, or Krull, for fuck's sakes. It's just, it's different, but it's enjoyable.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to chatting with Return of the Kings with you guys. So I'm going to start with, we'll go back to the top of the order. We'll go back to Adam, then we'll do Dave, and then Ken, you're going to bring us home.
Yeah, I think, again, in terms of like how these movies rung out, you know, like Fellowship is proof of concept, and Two Towers, you know, is really taking the story off into the directions that Tolkien wanted to take them in. It's important to keep in mind too. We talked a lot about storytelling and fantasy storytelling, especially, but it's important to remember Tolkien considered Lord of the Rings mythology. He was creating like an ancient mythology for I mean, essentially, Middle Earth is like England, the United Kingdom, and
I mean,
in ancient times,
Tolkien was a language dork,
right? He was like trying to create that ancient mythology for England in the same way of like Zeus and Apollo and in the Greek philosophy, or in the Greek mythological traditions. So there is something very totemic about it. But what Peter Jackson does is that he makes it feel real, and I think for all the reasons we talked about, the
and
craft,
he makes it feel real and approachable.
Approachable, the craft, the language, the actors that he cast. I mean, you know, Viggo Mortensen had been acting for years, but he wasn't a star. John Rhys Davies, you know, went from movies to TV to theater. You know, people probably knew Elijah Wood and Sean Astin from, you know, they're from, you know,
North.
Roles they did as kids, North or Goonies or whatever. So, you know, probably Liv Tyler was probably maybe one of the most famous people involved in this.
Or Ian McKellen.
Ian McKellen too. I mean, Ian McKellen. If you knew your Royal Shakespeare Company, you knew Ian McKellen, but you probably didn't really know Ian McKellen until like Magneto, which was the year before, in X-Men.
It's so interesting that Liv Tyler is in this, though. Like, that was one of the people to pop up that I was just like, you were in movies for a hot minute.
Right, and she almost wasn't in this because of all the Weinstein stuff. Like, Weinstein tried to sink her from being in Lord of the Rings, and Peter Jackson almost followed that advice. Yeah, but I mean, he didn't. So, you know, there is only one ring, only one Lord of the Rings, and I think the great fault of our times is that we keep trying to capture lightning in a bottle because something was good and successful and totemic 20 years ago. It will be the same today. This was the story. No one cares about the story in the Rings of Power or whatever they're trying to do. And you know, The Hobbit was a very particular story, and they tried to turn it into essentially like the Lord of the Rings prequel, which it wasn't. You know, as for Two Towers itself, this is when the story becomes more fleshed out, more real, more cinematic, I would say. And then, you know, you get to the end of that movie and you're like, well, I got to see how it turns out. And now imagine sitting there in 2002 in the movie theater, realizing it's going to be 364 days until you get that resolution. So
Gandalf will return.
Gandalf will
Yeah.
return in the Return of the King. Yeah. But yeah,
well, to be fair, Gandalf is returning.
Yeah,
Gandalf is actually returning.
That is true. Yeah, if you really want to break it down.
So yeah, So yeah, it's everything you want to be, and it's everything you want a middle chapter to be. It has its own propulsion. It has its own story. It doesn't feel like you're just sort of cooling your heels until the final chapter. There is meat on these bones, and that's one of the reasons why I do think it's the best chapter.
All right, Dave, what do you got?
So as I've mentioned numerous times now, this is my first time going through these. I'm having a fresh perspective, and one of the things, Birdman, that you've said numerous times on this show about me is that I'm a positive viewer to look at things more in a light than versus a negative.
Mm-hmm.
And that change really came about in probably the last 5 years, I would say, as a viewer. As there was an interview with Kevin Smith where he talked about, I could give you 10 minutes on a movie I hate, but why would I want to share that with you versus when I could tell you about something that I loved?
Yeah.
And I come from that mindset anymore when I view movies, no matter what they are. And it's funny because with Lord of the Rings, it wasn't a I'm better than those movies like mentality, but there was definitely some kind of for lack of a better word, cuntiness about me with this series. I don't know specifically what it was. I don't know. Fuck you, Adam. I don't know. I don't know if it was just the highest on my horse as I rode through the valleys of Rohan, but regardless, it's been a very fun experience so far. Seeing these in my 30s, but also getting to enjoy them with somebody that is able to share the story guidelines with me, and also some extra stuff that may or may not be in the lore and whatnot. But also see these movies in a fresh light of really coming from a pop culture standpoint. And that's really kind of what it narrows down to me. Is it's just like I watched these movies so far, and while I wasn't so big on Fellowship, Two Towers really hit with me for missing movies that are like this. We have gotten away from these type of blockbusters, in my opinion, or they don't look the same, I would say. And, that also goes, again, we're talking about movies that are 25 years old at this point, nearly. And I get that, but these were a phenomenon, and there was a reason they were. On top of that, if you are somebody that is into the fantasy lore and you haven't delved into Lord of the Rings, I implore you to give these movies a look. But simply, if you want to start with one that's not Fellowship, I would recommend Two Towers. I mean, Two Towers just comes from every point of building story in the first one, that while it is important story, you could easily get into this movie having not seen it and probably get into these characters a little bit more than you would of the setup that they build in the first movie. I think Two Towers is an achievement in every level. And to wrap things up, I would say, in the middle of Earth, in the land of the Shire, lives a brave little hobbit whom we all admire. With his long wooden pipe, fuzzy woolly toes, he lives in a hobbit hole and everybody knows him, Bilbo Baggins, who's not in this movie, and maybe that made it better.
There we go. And Ken, what are your final thoughts?
Again, this is essentially the first time I've been seeing these films. It's not that I haven't seen the films, it's that this is the first time I'm not being a jaded piece of shit.
Not being a film cunt, Esquire.
Yes. And this is I've been enjoying these. I think I think what is standing out to me is more the non-fantasy characters and their journey versus like some of my other favorite fantasy films. I like the more fantastical characters. In Lord of the Rings, to me, what is truly the core of this story is actually the more human characters.
Because I think, honestly, too, because their death is more prevalent.
Yeah. And
yeah.
It's I really do think these are great features, and they hold up obviously for the same reason that everyone says they don't make movies like these anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they ever will.
Yeah, that's something I said to Blair today when she was watching the last little bit of this with me. Like, I don't think they're ever going to make movies like this again. And it's sad, but it's also kind of like, I'm glad this was a moment in film history. I mean, I'm pretty sure these are preserved in the Library of Congress, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'm really looking forward to finishing out the rest of this series. Like I said, next time when we do one of our big loose cannons of 2026, like we're filming this before we come back on the regular show, which will be on Monday the 26th, give or take. Which TWIG will be celebrating, I think 18 or 19 years as a podcast. We started back in 2007, so we've been around a while. You might say we're old enough to buy porn and go to war now.
Well,
So,
I'm happy you said that we're filming this, because that means the listener doesn't know that we're all in complete theater film accurate garb as our favorite characters while we record these. Unfortunately, we're just never going to release it. But thank you for saying we're recording these, because we are filming these. We are in video. We are dressed completely. We spent a lot of money on these costumes that you're never going to see.
That's true. I am in mithril underwear right now.
Chainmail is really heavy too.
It really is. Chafing. Oh my god, the chafing.
My balls hurt. So on that note, from the royal sister city of Hoppington, aka the Shire, from the royal city of Guelph, we have been.
I've been Adam A. Donaldson.
From the Elven Kingdoms in the Garden State,
Ken from this anime.
And lighting the torches of Gondor,
David Denoyer, coming to you from Ohio, who is also saying, don't be a twat because movies don't meet your expectations. Give the movie a chance. Sit down and try to enjoy it. Don't be a jaded moviegoer. Dive into films with joy.
I love it. And I'm going to close this off with my favorite quote out of this entire movie. Forth and fear no darkness. We'll catch you guys next time right here on thisweekingeek.net.
Are either one of these any good? Sir?
What?
Are either one of these any good?
I don't watch movies.
Quick! Change the channel!
You're wasting your life making shit! Nobody cares! These movies are terrible!
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.